I'll never forget the exact moment the floor collapsed under my feet. It wasn't some late-night text I stumbled upon, or lipstick on a collar cliché. No, it happened at a damn birthday party. Her birthday party. The one I paid for down to the last balloon, the champagne, the fancy cake shaped like some Paris tower she insisted on. I was standing there, glass in hand, ready to toast my wife, Jessica, the woman I thought I'd spend my last breath with. And then, like a knife slicing through skin, she pulled the rug out from under me. She clinked her glass, smiled that fake Barbie smile, and started her speech. Everyone was quiet, waiting. I was already rehearsing the lines I'd whisper to her later. How proud I was, how beautiful she looked. Then she turned, raised her arm and said, "I want to thank Tyler. You've been my rock. You're the reason I smile every morning." Tyler, some guy I'd only seen around twice, maybe 3 times. Just a friend, she told me. I laughed nervously, waiting for her to say, and of course my husband, Daniel, who made all of this possible. But my name never left her mouth. Instead, she pulled out a box, handed it to me in front of everyone. I opened it, expecting maybe a watch or something sentimental. Nope, it was a branded t-shirt, white, bold letters. The word across it, divorced. Her friends erupted in laughter like it was some kind of sick reality show prank. My heart was punching through my ribs, but all I did was smile tight, put the shirt back in the box, and nod like it was funny. My throat burned. My chest was full of fire. I could feel people's eyes on me. Pity, amusement, confusion. I didn't say a word. I didn't throw a fit. I didn't smash a glass. I just placed the box back on the table, turned around, and walked out. I left her party, her people, her laughter. But here's the part that twists the knife deeper. 5 minutes later, as I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel, my phone lit up like a slot machine. One call after another. 157 missed calls in less than 10 minutes. All from her, Jessica, the woman who had just humiliated me in front of everyone. Suddenly desperate to reach me. That was the moment I knew. That was the moment something far uglier than just a bad joke was hiding behind her fake smile. That was the moment I understood. My wife, my partner, my so-called better half, wasn't mine anymore. She was someone else's, and she didn't even care if I knew. The betrayal didn't start with the party. That was just the curtain being pulled back. The truth had been crawling under my skin for months. I just hadn't seen it. But after that night, I began to remember all the little things I ignored, all the lies she sprinkled like breadcrumbs I refused to follow. And believe me, I followed them now. After that night, the word divorced burned into my head like a neon sign that wouldn't shut off. Couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I sat in my car outside our house with the engine running, watching the upstairs light flicker on and off like Morse code. My wife, Jessica, was in there, probably pacing, probably crying into her phone, probably spinning another lie to her girlfriends about how I overreacted. But let's be honest. Women like her don't call you 157 times in 5 minutes because they're sorry about a bad joke. No, they do it because they're terrified the curtain has slipped and the truth is crawling out where everyone can see it. The first clue had been there weeks before, but I was too blind to catch it. She started locking her phone. Jessica never used to do that. She was careless, always leaving it on the counter, buzzing with Pinterest notifications or messages from her friend Lindsay. Then one day she suddenly had a password. I asked why. She shrugged and said, "Privacy, Daniel. Everyone deserves it." "Privacy from me?" I asked. She rolled her eyes, kissed my cheek, and said, "Don't be paranoid. It's work stuff." But Jessica didn't work. Not in the 9-to-5 sense. She had projects, photography, yoga classes, influencer crap. Work stuff, Maya. Then came the perfume. I remember hugging her one night, and she smelled different. Not her usual vanilla scent. Stronger, muskier, a scent that didn't belong to her. When I asked, she laughed. New sample from Macy's. Except the next night it was different again, this time sandalwood. Who the hell has a rotating perfume collection like that? And the lies, God, the lies. She'd say she was with Lindsay, But when I bumped into Lindsay at Target, she casually said, "Haven't seen Jess in weeks. Is she okay?" My stomach dropped. But I smiled, nodded, told her Jess was fine. Inside, my brain was screaming. The final nail came one random Tuesday. I left work early. Company system crashed. Nothing to do. I drove home around 2 p.m., expecting an empty house. Her car was in the driveway. I thought, good. Maybe we can actually have lunch together, talk like humans for once. But when I opened the front door, the air smelled like sweat and cologne. A man's cologne. The living room was spotless, too spotless, like someone had just cleaned it in a panic. There was a wine glass in the sink. Only one. I called out her name. No answer. I walked upstairs slowly, heart pounding in my ears. The bedroom door was half closed. And inside, I swear my knees buckled. There was a shirt on the floor. Not mine. Black, tight fit, size medium. I'm a large. I froze. I didn't storm in. Didn't scream. Just stood there, shaking. That shirt might as well have been a confession signed in blood. When I pushed the door open, the room was empty. The sheets were wrinkled. My side of the bed still smelled like me, but the other side, it reeked of something primal. My chest caved in. I wanted to vomit. She came out of the bathroom a minute later, hair wet, towel wrapped around her. She jumped when she saw me. "Daniel, you're home early." Yeah. Too early for her liking. I looked at the bed, then at the shirt still lying on the carpet. Her eyes flicked to it for half a second, just half a second, but it was enough. She knew she was caught. And yet, instead of fear, instead of shame, her lips curled into that fake sweet smile. "Oh, that." She picked it up, held it like it was a dirty rag. "It's Tyler's. He was helping me move some boxes from the attic." Tyler, of course. The same Tyler she publicly thanked at her birthday. I didn't say anything. I just walked past her, out of the room, out of the house. I drove until the tank was almost empty, hands trembling on the wheel, vision blurry with rage and heartbreak. That night, alone in a motel, I realized something. You don't need to walk in on the act to know. The act leaves its fingerprints everywhere. The lies, the smells, the looks. I had the evidence, even if she thought I was too blind to see it. But I wasn't blind anymore. And the next step was confrontation. The motel bed creaked under me as I sat there, staring at the cheap wallpaper. My fists wouldn't unclench. My chest felt like it had a live wire running through it. I couldn't keep running forever. I had to face her. By the next evening, after a night of no sleep and pacing like a caged dog, I drove back home. Her car was in the driveway again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I marched straight through the front door, keys rattling, my jaw locked so tight I thought it would snap. She was in the kitchen, humming, chopping vegetables like it was a sitcom scene. Jessica looked up, smiled, and for a moment you'd think nothing was wrong. That's her weapon, fake normalcy. "You didn't come home last night," she said lightly, like she was commenting on the weather. I dropped my bag on the floor. "Who the hell is Tyler?" Her knife paused midair, just for a split second. Then she set it down slowly, wiped her hands, and turned with that smug calmness that made me want to punch a wall. "I told you already," she said, tilting her head like I was a child who didn't understand. "He's just a friend. He helped me with the attic boxes. You saw the shirt. That's it. Just a friend." I barked out a laugh. "Jessica, you thanked him at your birthday party like he was your soulmate. You gave me a t-shirt that said, 'Divorced.' You humiliated me in front of your friends. Now I walk in and there's a man's shirt in our bedroom. The bed's a mess, and you're standing there telling me he was moving boxes." She rolled her eyes. "You're paranoid," she said, crossing her arms. "You've always been insecure, Daniel. That's your problem, not mine. I can't even have male friends without you imagining things. It's pathetic. Pathetic." The word slapped me harder than a fist. Male friends don't leave their shirts on the floor of a married woman's bedroom. I shot back. Her lips curled. That smirk I hated more than anything. Maybe he changed after lifting boxes and forgot it. Maybe he showered here because he was sweaty. What's the big deal? You act like I was rolling around with him. The way she said it, the dismissive tone, the absolute arrogance, made my stomach twist. You were, I whispered, the words barely making it out of my throat. Her face hardened. She dropped the smile. Even if I was, maybe that says more about what I'm not getting at home. The room went silent. That was it. The knife she slid between my ribs with just one line. She didn't deny it. She didn't even care to sugarcoat it anymore. She wanted me to feel small, useless, unwanted. And it worked. I slammed my fist on the counter, the sound echoing through the kitchen. I've given you everything, Jessica. Everything. The house, the car, the parties, the goddamn birthday you just had. And this is how you repay me? By sneaking around with some guy behind my back and then spitting in my face. She didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. She leaned back against the counter, arms still crossed, voice calm as ice. You're being dramatic. Tyler actually makes me feel alive. Do you know when the last time you made me feel that way was? Exactly. You're boring, Daniel. Predictable. You work, you pay bills, you think that's enough. But it's not. A woman needs more. Every word sliced me open. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to drag that smug look off her face. But instead, I just stood there, trembling. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall in front of her. You're unbelievable, I said, my voice cracking. She pushed past me, brushing her shoulder against mine like I was nothing but air. You're weak. That's your problem. Tyler wouldn't cry about this. That was the final straw. I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't slam the door, didn't yell back, didn't give her the satisfaction. I walked out into the night, each step heavier than the last, my entire body vibrating with rage and grief. In that moment, I realized something painful. She wasn't just cheating on me. She despised me. She wanted me broken, humiliated, begging. And the worst part? She was enjoying it. That was the confrontation. Not a fight, not an apology, not a tearful confession. Just cold dismissal. And I knew then, I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing the illusion I'd been clinging to for years that I drove with no destination. Just the ache riding shotgun. The highway lights smeared into spears, and every one of them felt like it was aimed at my chest. I didn't blast music. I didn't punch the steering wheel. I just breathed like I'd forgotten how, gulping air that never seemed to reach the bottom of me. When a red light finally pinned me down, my phone buzzed with a bank alert. A new charge? Boutique hotel downtown, 2:17 p.m. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. Tuesday, the day of the attic boxes. I laughed. This raw, broken sound that wasn't mine, and then I didn't laugh at all. Grief is weird. It doesn't arrive in a straight line. First it kicked down the door as rage, hot, cinematic, useless. Then it seeped under the floorboards as shame. Shame that I didn't see it. Shame that I'd funded the clown show and still clapped from the front row. I pulled over behind a shuttered diner and let it hit. There wasn't a single tear at first, just this pressure, like the world had put a boot on my sternum and leaned in. When the tears did come, they came ugly. My brother, Michael, called. He said he'd heard about the birthday fiasco from Ashley, Jessica's friend's cousin who apparently thinks group chats are a public service. You good, man? He asked, careful, like I might break mid-sentence. No, I said, but I'm not dead. He told me to crash at his place. I almost did. Instead, I drove home because self-harm can look a lot like stubbornness. In the driveway, I sat in the dark and sifted the rubble of our marriage like I might find a diamond if I was diligent enough. First apartment, IKEA couch, whispered plans about kids someday. The year we were broke and ate cereal for dinner and somehow laughed through it. Then the years we weren't broke and she smiled less. The silence got fancy. That's the thing about money. If you're not careful, it upgrades your emptiness. I didn't go in. Couldn't. I ended up at a 24-hour grocery store buying things that didn't make sense together. A rotisserie chicken, licorice, paper towels, batteries. I kept thinking people were staring at me, the guy whose wife had publicly announced his expiration date in Helvetica. At the checkout, the cashier, kid with a name tag that said Brandon. asked if I wanted a receipt. I almost told him everything. Strangers are easier. They're not invested in your myth. Back in the parking lot, my phone lit again. A text from Rachel, our neighbor. You okay? Hate to send this, but... Then a photo. Jessica on the hotel's rooftop bar, hair thrown back, Tyler's hand on the small of her back like it had always lived there. Her smile was different, the kind you don't fake. My fingers went numb. The chicken slid off the passenger seat onto the floor, grease bleeding into the paper bag like a spreading bruise. I wanted to do something reckless. Drive to the hotel. Drag the two of them into the street and ask strangers to vote on whether I deserved this. But I didn't. I sat. I swallowed the humiliation like dry bread. I told myself a truth I hated. If I let rage steer, I'd end up in a ditch I built myself. The next morning at work, HR emailed. Quick check-in? I wasn't surprised. I typed numbers that didn't add up, stared at screens that stared back. Kevin from accounting hovered at my cubicle and said I looked pale in a concerned way, which is a very Kevin thing to say. I wanted to thank him for inventing a new shade of grief. Instead, I nodded and lied. Didn't sleep well. At lunch, I stepped outside and nearly walked into Tyler at the gas station across the street. He wore that same medium black shirt, like fate was mocking me with continuity. Up close, he wasn't special. Average height, gym shoulders, an expensive watch that screamed, I need you to know I have value. He looked at me, recognition clicking into place, and gave this tiny shrug. Not sorry. Not guilty. A shrug that translated to, it is what it is, man. I felt heat crawl up my throat. I wanted to redecorate his face. I didn't. I said nothing and kept walking, every molecule of restraint doing deadlifts. That afternoon I started a list in my notes app, because when your heart is chaos you build a spreadsheet. Evidence. Hotel charge. Shirt in bedroom. Photo from Rachel. Birthday speech. 157 calls. I added voice memos, talking quietly into the phone in the parking lot like a man leaving breadcrumbs for his future sanity. I sounded calm. That scared me more than my tears. Night fell heavy. I lay on the couch instead of our bed. The house clicked and sighed around me like it was reconsidering its lease. Jessica texted long paragraphs. A greatest hits of denial and blame. You're twisting everything. I never said divorced was serious. Tyler is just a vibe I needed. We can be open-minded adults. The phrase open-minded adults made me laugh again, that same broken sound. Translation. I want to keep what I want and keep you paying for it. Somewhere between midnight and 2 a.m., a quiet acceptance took a chair in the corner. Not peace, nothing that generous. Just a stillness with edges. The story I'd been telling about us was dead. The grief would keep moving through me like weather, but the facts were fixed stars now. I could navigate by them even if the night stayed long. Before I finally slept, I messaged Chris, an old college buddy who turned into a lawyer, and typed 7 words I never thought I'd write. Call me in the morning about options. I hit send, turned the screen face down, and let the darkness do what it does. Hold you without ever once promising it will keep you safe. Morning came like an enemy. Sunlight slicing through blinds, drilling into my skull, reminding me there was another day to live through. The rotisserie chicken was still on the floor, leaking grease, and it smelled exactly like what my marriage had become. Spoiled, messy, something you wanted to throw out but couldn't yet touch. Jessica was in the kitchen when I walked in. She had that housewife performance switched on. Coffee brewing, hair tied up, like nothing had ever happened. She didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed, like I was the problem for not playing along with her version of reality. Where'd you sleep? She asked casually, as if we were roommates and I just missed curfew. On the couch, I said, where I'll be sleeping from now on. She tilted her head, lips pursed, studying me like she was measuring how much fight was left in me. Daniel, don't make this dramatic. You're blowing things up. Tyler's just a friend. You've invented this story in your head. I laughed, bitter and sharp. A friend whose shirt magically appears in our bedroom? A friend you charge hotel rooms with at 2 in the afternoon? A friend you publicly thank at your birthday party while handing me a shirt that says, divorced? If this is friendship, Jessica, I'd hate to see what you call an affair. Her eyes narrowed. You've been snooping? No, I snapped. The evidence falls in my lap because you don't even bother hiding it anymore. That shut her up for a second. But she recovered quickly. Jessica is the type who never loses long. She just changes the game mid-match. So what? You want a divorce? Is that it? She asked, arms crossed, chin tilted like she dared me to say yes. And there it was, the decision hanging in the air like a guillotine. I'd already texted Chris, my lawyer friend, but saying the words out loud felt like pulling the trigger. Divorce. That word wasn't abstract anymore. It was a t-shirt gag at her party, it was a hotel charge, it was the smirk Tyler gave me at the gas station. Divorce wasn't paperwork. Divorce was survival. I don't want this marriage anymore, I said finally. My voice shook, but the words were solid. She rolled her eyes, exaggerated like a teenager. Fine, do what you want, but don't think you're walking out of this with everything. I'll take half. Actually, maybe more. You owe me. Owe you. My jaw nearly hit the floor. I paid for everything. The house, the parties, your hobbies, your goddamn lifestyle. What exactly do I owe you for, Jessica? For cheating? For humiliating me? She smirked again. That smug little twist of her lips that made me want to punch through drywall. For wasting my best years. That was her. Cold. Ruthless. She wanted me broken. She wasn't even pretending to care anymore. And in a way, that clarity helped. Because all the months of gaslighting, all the lies, all the half-smiles, they burned away in that moment. She finally showed me who she was. Later that day, I sat in Chris's office. He didn't sugarcoat it. You've got a strong case, Dan, he said, flipping through my notes and screenshots. But be ready. She's going to fight dirty. I expect nothing less, I said. We went over the details. Assets, accounts, the house. My hands shook as I signed the retainer papers, but there was also relief. This was me choosing something. Me standing up. Not just waiting for her next humiliation. That night, when I got home, Jessica was sprawled on the couch, phone in hand, giggling at something Tyler had probably sent her. She didn't even look up when I walked in. I talked to a lawyer, I said flatly. Her laugh died. Slowly, she turned her head, eyes narrowing into slits. You think you can win against me? I don't need to win, I said. I just need to be free. For the first time since all this started, her face cracked. Not guilt, not sadness, anger, pure venomous anger, because she realized she couldn't control me anymore. And in that moment, I knew the decision was final. Divorce wasn't just paperwork. It was my way out of the cage she built around me. But the emotional storm wasn't done with me yet. Because deciding is one thing. Living with the aftermath, that's a whole different war. The papers were filed. That should have been the hard part, right? Pulling the pin, setting the whole thing in motion. But what they don't tell you is the real battle starts after you sign your name. That's when the silence crawls in, when the empty spaces scream, when every damn room reminds you of what used to be there, and what never really was. I thought the anger would keep me warm, that it would carry me through. And for a while, it did. Anger is fire, it burns hot, it blinds you, it makes you feel powerful for a second. But then the flames die out, and all you're left with is ash. Nights were the worst. The bed was too big. The sheets were too cold. I'd roll over expecting to feel her, and instead my hand landed on emptiness. Sometimes I hated myself for missing her. Not her, really, more like the idea of her. The illusion I'd bought into for years. The dream I'd been financing. I didn't miss Jessica the woman. I missed Jessica the mask. And realizing that made me feel like the biggest fool alive. The texts didn't stop. She'd alternate between venom and honey. One night it would be, "You'll never find anyone like me." The next morning it would switch to, "We could fix this if you weren't so stubborn." It was psychological warfare, and she loved every second of it. One night, after her 50th text in 2 hours, I called her. My hands shook, my throat burned, but I needed to hear her voice, needed to face it head on. "Why, Jessica?" I asked. That's all I said. Not yelling, not accusing. Just that one word, why. There was a pause on the line. Then her laugh, cold, sharp, cruel. "Because I could," she said simply. "Because you made it easy." That was the answer. Not love, not passion, not fate. Just convenience. I'd built her a palace, and she invited another man to sit on the throne. That laugh, I swear I'll hear it until the day I die. After that call, something in me broke, but in the best way. Not shattered, not destroyed. More like chains snapping off. The grief shifted. The sadness hardened into something steadier. Resolve. I started going to the gym again, not to look better for anyone else, but because I needed to feel my body ache for reasons I chose. I reconnected with old friends I'd abandoned while orbiting Jessica's fake little universe. My brother Michael pulled me out for beers one Friday, and for the first time in months, I laughed without bitterness in my throat. Still, the scars itched. Driving past the boutique hotel downtown made my stomach clench. Seeing couples hold hands at the grocery store sparked this ugly bitterness in me. I'd look at them and think, one of you is lying. One of you has a Tyler in the background. And the other one doesn't even know it yet. It was poisonous thinking, and I hated myself for it. But healing isn't a straight climb. It's a back and forth, a tug of war between who you were and who you're becoming. Then came the hearing. Sitting across from her in that sterile courtroom was surreal. Jessica wore her best smile, her best dress, her best act. Tyler didn't show, but his presence hovered like smoke. She lied through her teeth, called me controlling, paranoid, emotionally distant. Her lawyer painted me as a man who couldn't satisfy his wife in any sense. Each lie was a blade, but I didn't flinch. I had my evidence, my notes, my calm. The judge wasn't fooled. The divorce went through faster than I expected. No drawn-out drama, no endless appeals. When the gavel came down, something lifted off me. I walked out lighter, though still bleeding inside. That night, alone in my apartment, I'd moved out before the court date. I poured myself a drink and sat by the window. The city buzzed below, alive, uncaring. I thought about the man I'd been, the husband who wanted to believe, the fool who ignored the perfume, the hotel charges, the laughter. I pitied him, but I also forgave him. Because he tried. He loved with everything he had. And that's not weakness. That's strength she'll never understand. And in that quiet moment, I realized something. I wasn't broken. I was bruised, yes. Torn apart, yes. But broken? No. I was still here. Still standing. And tomorrow I'd still be moving forward. Because surviving betrayal isn't about forgetting. It's about carrying the scars without letting them define you. Freedom doesn't come with a parade. It doesn't come with balloons or cheering. It comes quietly, like dawn. You don't notice it at first, you're just sitting in the dark, staring at the wreckage, and then one morning you realize you can breathe without choking. That was me weeks after the divorce papers were finalized. I'd moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, nothing Instagram-worthy. But it was mine. Mine. No Tyler lurking in the shadows. No Jessica poisoning the air with lies. The first night I slept there, the silence was deafening. But it was honest silence. That mattered more than I can explain. The hardest part was deciding what to do with the pieces. Divorce doesn't just take your spouse. It takes your routines, your plans, your future you thought you'd mapped out. Every morning I woke up and had to decide. Am I going to build? Or am I going to rot? I chose building. Slowly, shakily, but I chose it. The first step was reclaiming my space. I sold the big bed Jessica and I shared, bought a smaller one that fit my new life. I repainted the walls in colors she would have hated. Deep navy in the living room, a warm green in the bedroom. I framed photos from trips I'd taken alone before we married. Reminders that I'd had an identity before her, and I damn well would again. Then came the financial decisions. My lawyer, Chris, had warned me, she'll try to bleed you, and she did. But I fought tooth and nail, and though she walked away with a chunk, I still had enough to restart. I made a budget for the first time in years, not because I had to, but because I wanted to take control. Every dollar spent was mine, earned by me, used for me. That felt revolutionary. Socially, it was messier. Some friends picked sides. Jessica had her little army of gossiping sycophants, painting me as the angry, bitter ex-husband. Fine. Let them talk. The ones who mattered, my brother Michael, my college buddy Kevin, my neighbor Rachel who had the guts to send me that rooftop photo. They stayed. Those were my people. The ones who didn't vanish when the storm hit. And then there was the question everyone loves to ask a newly divorced man. So, when are you going to start dating again? At first, I wanted to scream at them. I wasn't ready. My chest was still raw, my trust shredded. The idea of opening myself to another woman felt like handing a stranger a loaded gun and asking her not to pull the trigger. But over time, the fear softened. Not disappeared, just softened. I started seeing people again, not romantically, just socially. Coffee with coworkers. Catching a game with Michael. Drinks with Rachel and her group. Slowly, I began to feel like a human being again, not just a cautionary tale. One night, sitting at a bar with Michael, he leaned over and said, "You look lighter, man, like you finally put the corpse down." I laughed. Yeah, took me long enough. The truth was, I had made a final decision, not about Jessica, not about Tyler, not about the past. About me. I wasn't going to let this define me as the man who got cheated on, the man humiliated with a t-shirt at a party, the man whose wife chose betrayal over loyalty. I was going to define myself as the man who walked through fire and didn't let it burn him to ash. That meant setting boundaries. Jessica still tried to reach out sometimes, late-night texts, fake emergencies, manipulative little "I miss you" messages. I blocked her number. When she tried email, I blocked that too. No contact. No breadcrumbs. She was poison, and I wasn't going to sip from that glass again. I also started therapy. At first, I resisted. Men like me aren't raised to spill their guts to strangers. But it turned out to be one of the best decisions I made. Sitting there, saying out loud all the things I thought would crush me, only to realize they lost power once they left my mouth, it was liberating. My therapist, Dr. Harris, said something that stuck with me. "You can't control being betrayed, Daniel, but you can control what you build from the ruins. That's where your power lies." She was right, so I built. Day by day, brick by brick. A healthier body, clearer finances, tighter friendships, stronger boundaries. I wasn't healed yet, not fully. Maybe I never would be. But I was healing, and that was enough. One evening, as I stood on my tiny balcony with a beer in hand, watching the sunset paint the sky, I realized something I never thought I'd feel again. Gratitude. Not for Jessica, not for Tyler, but for myself, for surviving, for refusing to drown, for choosing to rise. That's what freedom really is. Not the absence of pain, but the decision to keep walking even when the road is jagged. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to take the next step into whatever was waiting for me. If you asked me a year ago what I'd be doing today, I would have said something ridiculous like planning a trip with Jessica, maybe looking at houses in the suburbs, maybe talking about kids. I thought I had my life mapped out. I thought love was solid, permanent, unshakable if you just worked hard enough. What I didn't know then is that betrayal doesn't just crack your world. It rips the map in half and forces you to start walking blind. But here's the thing I learned. Walking blind isn't the end of the world. You stumble, you fall, you bleed, but eventually your eyes adjust to the dark. You start seeing outlines, then shapes, then finally light on the horizon. And when you get there, you realize you're not the same man who started. You're sharper, you're tougher, you're wiser. Let me be clear, betrayal is hell. Finding out your wife, your partner, the person you built your life around, is sneaking around with another man. It's a knife you don't stop feeling for months. The humiliation cuts deeper than the heartbreak. Jessica didn't just cheat. She laughed while she did it. She put my dignity on a t-shirt and handed it out like party favors. That's the part that nearly broke me. But it didn't. I survived it. Not because I'm stronger than anyone else, but because I refused to let her story be the last word in my life. She wanted me broken. She wanted me bitter. She wanted me crawling back or crumbling into nothing. Instead, I stood up. I walked out. I chose to live. To any man reading this who suspects or who knows or who's already been through it, let me tell you what nobody told me. Trust your gut. When the perfume changes, when the phone locks, when the lies don't add up, don't gaslight yourself like she's gaslighting you. You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. You're seeing the cracks in the mask, and ignoring them will only hurt you longer. Second, don't waste time begging for respect from someone who's already chosen to spit on it. I wasted weeks trying to reason with Jessica, trying to drag truth out of her mouth, trying to make her admit what was obvious. That was energy I'll never get back. A cheater who smirks in your face isn't going to confess. They'll keep twisting the knife because your pain feeds their power. Save your breath. Third, and maybe most important, choose yourself. Not revenge. Not wallowing. Yourself. That means therapy if you can. It means cutting off contact no matter how tempting it is to answer those "I miss you" messages. It means rebuilding your body, your friendships, your sense of purpose outside the shadow of the person who betrayed you. The moment you start doing that, the moment you start making decisions for you again, that's when freedom begins. I won't lie and tell you it's easy. Even now, there are nights I wake up and smell cologne that isn't there. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if Tyler is still in her life, if she's humiliating him the way she humiliated me. Sometimes I hate her with every fiber of my being. Other times I just feel nothing at all. Healing isn't linear, but it's progress. And here's something strange I never expected. I'm grateful it happened, not because I enjoyed the pain, not because I deserved it, but because betrayal stripped the lies bare. It forced me to face the truth I'd been avoiding for years. Jessica never respected me, never loved me the way I loved her. I was funding her stage and she was the actress playing a part. Now I'm free of the show, free to write my own script. So if you're reading this, sitting in your car with your chest caving in, staring at evidence you wish you didn't find, hear me. You will get through this. It will scar you, yes, but scars aren't weaknesses. They're proof you fought and lived to tell the story. Don't let her cruelty define you. Don't let the betrayal harden you into stone. Use it to sharpen you instead. Because one day, sooner than you think, you'll wake up in a quiet room, sunlight pouring in, and realize you're breathing without pain. You'll sip your coffee and smile at nothing in particular. And in that tiny, ordinary moment, you'll know you've won. Jessica thought she destroyed me, but in the end, all she did was set me free. And my advice to you? Let the ones who betray you go. Block their number. Burn the t-shirt. Take back your story. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure from them. You only need the decision to walk forward, because every step away from betrayal is a step toward becoming the man you were always meant to be.